จะเปลี่ยนป่ะ
Good afternoon, everyone. We will be discussing on the topic of the differences and similarities between Thai and Singaporean education. But before we get started, I would like to thank our professor for this opportunity that he has given us. And please allow us to introduce ourselves. I am Mr. National.
I'm Kaiwit.
I'm Thaddanai.
I am Sirvit.
I am Supasan.
Okay, we will begin our discussion. Who would like to start?
I will, sir. Okay, well, let me start with the enrollment in the basic education system begins at the age of 6. Basic education in Thailand is divided into 6 years of primary schooling, which is Prathom 1 to Prathom 6, followed by 3 years of lower secondary schooling, which is Mathayom 1 to Mathayom 3. After that, the student has to have a choice between the general education and the vocational and technical education for studying about 3 years. The vocational and technical education is conducted at 3 levels, that is, firstly, upper secondary, secondly, post-secondary, and the last one is the university level. On the other hand, Thailand still had other education system that is called a non-formal education. Non-formal education is for adults who really want to study without formality way. Hence, the age of students who have completed basic education will be 6 to 12 years old. And the basic languages used in teaching, learning, studying in Thailand is Thai, English, and a few of Mandarin and a Cantonese. That's all for me.
That sounds good, Mr. Sirvit. For my information, secondary school students in Thailand can choose between academic or vocational programs. Similarly, secondary school students in Singapore can pick from these 3 programs, consist of express, normal academic, or normal technical. All programs follow the same curriculum. However, express is more intensive, while normal technical is more hands-on. But they must perform well in exams in order to be eligible to choose. As you can see from the diagram in your right hand, Singapore students is required to take a variety of exams to progress to a higher degrees of schooling. In my opinion, they might easily become emotionally stressed and depression from studying too hard. That's for me. Thank you.
Mr. Thaddanai and Mr. Silavit, your information was great, but it's just only mentioned about the primary and the secondary education. What about the higher education? We haven't mentioned anything about this. So how about Mr. Kaiwit and Mr. Supasan? Would you like to add something?
Yes, I will. We research the information about higher education in Thailand and Singapore. So I will start first about the information in Thailand. In my aspect, nowadays, alternative education is not popular option compared to university. According to statistics, there are 156 universities in Thailand in 3 categories, which is autonomous, public, and private university. In present, there are 3 levels of education in Thailand. The first is bachelor degree, spend 4 to 6 years of education and 2 semesters per year.
an apprentice or vocational class. The second is master degree, spend 2 years of education, 2 terms per year, and the third is doctoral degree, spend 3 years of education for specific profession. And for grading, there are many ways that university use to assessment their students, such as essay, assignment, dissertation, and examination. Okay, it's enough for me. How about you, Mr. Supasan?
Thank you for your information, Mr. Gaiwet. It's very, very interesting. And from my information, Singapore has 34 universities that are organized into 3 levels similar to Thailand, but it's quite different because bachelor degree takes 2 to 5 years, and master degree takes 1 to 3 years, and doctoral degree at least 2 years. Yes, for me.
Mr. Gaiwit, I heard you talk about state and private education a little bit. So would you mind giving your opinion? What's better? Which one better between them?
In my opinion, I think public education is better than private education because public education has a higher level of popularity and more research than private education, and the tuition fee is cheaper.
Sorry, Mr. Gaiwit, but may I say something? The state education tuition fee may be higher than the private education on occasion because it depends on the faculty and program in which you are enrolled, and the knowledge that students will gain from the university is not dependent on the university, but rather on how serious they are about learning. The basic equipment for the study at a private education is more adequate for students. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Your opinion was very productive. But Mr. Padanai and Mr. Silawit, you two prefer to be a client. So I would like to ask you a question. Could I?
Yes, why not?
Of course, definitely.
Okay, thanks for that. I would like to know that if you were in a position that can change the education system, what would you change in general?
In my aspect, we should minimize the number of examination in order to relieve stress among students and to be good mentor for students. That's it.
Oh, okay. Impressive. But I think you made a point, Mr. Tadanai. But in my opinion, I'd also like to add the changing of the current dress code. In my country, whether in public or private schools, every school has a specific dress code to describe the identity of their school. As for the hairstyle, the female students have to braid their hair or cut their hair short at the shoulder levels. But in the worst case, for the male student in some school, they had to flow his head until the scalp was visible. Like I was saying, which is this rule are just not sufficiently supported because the internal values cannot be measured by the external value or the accessory outside. Thanks.
thank you for you sharing for sharing your opinions. When I come to the conclusion, everybody has their different perspective or opinion. So in my personal opinion, even though Thailand and Singapore are in the same continent, but we both have a lot to improve our education system. So I will leave the conclusion to the crowd. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining our discussion. And once again, I would like to thank our professor for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.